Hopefully we'll have a bit of fun today, and I'll bring you up to date with what's been going on. I left last Monday saying I had some heat treatment to do, which I did do. I thought I was streaming it actually on Thursday, but for some reason I put it on private, so nobody got to see that. But I managed to get some of that footage back, so I'll just let you watch that. So there were a few problems with the outside broadcast, as I called it. I'm working from my garage on a radio link. But basically that's my little mini forge. Got a propane torch in it, and I'm just moving the iron in and out for the first couple of inches, which is what I actually wanted to heat treat. You won't be able to hear me on that thing after this point. I've got a very noisy extractor on, which didn't help at all. So I'll turn the volume of that one down a bit and just talk you through it. So you'll see just about in the foreground, I think I've got a little magnet, and I'll be using that in a minute just to test for temperature as things get hotter. I've got my fire extinguisher just in case, and I've got a little pot of oil which I'm going to be quenching the iron in. Now you can go really technical with this sort of thing and get electronic instruments to measure the temperature, but I'm just using a magnet, and once the steel loses its magnetic attraction to the magnet, then it's hot enough to quench. So it's a very old method. I think blacksmiths still use it actually because it's so simple and reliable. You can also go just on colour, and it's very good. Once you get tuned into what the right colours are, then that's fine. But I don't do enough of this to really be good at that. And trying to judge the colour when it's actually in the furnace itself is very awkward, because you get reflections on the steel from the fire bricks inside. They glow orange hot, and then you think the iron's orange, but it isn't. I can probably move this on a bit. You can see there's a fair bit of flame actually coming out the front and also the back of the furnace. So I should probably have gloves on. But I dare say if I got anywhere hot I would have quickly dropped it. But you can see it's getting a bit of colour in it now. Didn't realise there was quite so much footage of it just sitting in the furnace. But they're just testing it there with the magnet. Yeah, as Scott said, it would be easier to work in the dark. I think perhaps the video wouldn't be quite as interesting, because all you'd see is the area just in front of the furnace. So I'm up to temperature. Just give it a little bit of a blast more, so it will stay warm for its little journey into the oil. And you see it's quite smoky, but that smoke without the extractor would be all around the floor and in my face, but thankfully it was being sucked up and blown out of the garage. And I do wonder what the neighbours thought was going on at the time.
Mitch, you were talking about Japanese blacksmiths working in the dark. I think if even look at, British, English blacksmiths' workshops, they were always quite dark as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they all do. Is it just Scott mentioned Japanese in the chat there?
Yeah. But Lego Man's asking, did you normalise the blade before quenching? Because he's seen some blacksmiths on YouTube do that after forging to release stress in the metal.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I just do it like this, and I'm testing something completely different here this time because I'm trying to only harden the one surface really, which would be the back of the iron. And maybe when I was talking about this, it made me think, why do people call it the back of the iron? Because actually it's at the front of the plane. But anyway, that's an aside. So yeah, I'm just testing this out, and I'm quite expecting I might get some damage on the iron because I'm not going to temper it at all. I'm going on the basis that hopefully the front of the iron is going to be a little bit soft and is going to hold things together. So it really is a bit of an experiment. Now you might have noticed I was swirling that around in the oil for quite a long time. You do see a lot of people who just stick it in the oil, a couple of seconds, pull it out, loads of flames, and they think it's done. But I'm advised by a blacksmith I took a course with, or half day's course with, a couple of years ago, that really is a ridiculous thing to do. So I believe him rather than what I've seen on the telly.
Did you hear the trick that Jim mentioned by actually wrapping it in foil?
Yeah, that sounds an excellent idea.
Stainless steel foil, so you don't have to clean the blade afterwards.
That sounds very good.
Another thing is, don't you just leave it in there till it cools down entirely by itself?
You can leave it in there as long as you like. I say I'm not tempering it. I do pull it out before it's completely cool and let it cool down then. So there is a little bit of tempering going on, but a very short amount. So it's coming out of the quench still warm, above a tempering temperature, but I'm not holding it at that temperature. I'm letting it cool down in the air. And if it works out, well, I'll have learnt something else. Anyway, so I thought you might like to see that since I failed to get it streamed properly last week. Now, next on my little schedule is trial cut, because I managed to do something with the flying bridge, which you'll see on the full video of the build. So I've got my flying bridge, we're in with the temporary pin sitting in there, and I've done nothing to the wedge, but it's holding the iron in at the moment, so I shall clean that up and make it a little bit nicer in there eventually. But I seem to have fitted the bridge pretty square across there because the wedge is seated nice and tight right the way across. So I'll do a trial cut with it now. I have done a little bit before, just so I didn't completely embarrass myself with the iron flying out as soon as I hit the wood. So hopefully it'll be alright. Let's go and have a look at that. This is a piece of ash, and it's nice and seasoned, so it's pretty hard. So it's cutting, so that's good, and it's staying sharp, which is always good to know. If I bring this camera around, I'll show you probably a better picture of the iron, of the whole thing. And let's go over to that camera if we can. There we go. So you can see I've got the flying bridge in there, the temporary pin through, And you might notice, well, obviously the holes for the pin is slightly bigger than the pin I've got in there because it's a temporary one. But you'll notice I've also got a counterboard, a very shallow counterboard hole as well, because I've made some, if I can reach behind me, I've made a couple of plugs in U so that once the pin is in, the permanent one, I can put a couple of plugs on the end. So the next thing I've got to do is measure for that pin, and I've got to get that pretty spot on because I want as much support as possible within these cheeks, but obviously it's got to be short enough so that those plugs can go on as well. So I'll be doing that.
Mitch, with the plugs, I was just going to say, accounting for potential wood shrinkage, make sure that you make the pin slightly shorter. So if the plane does shrink in width,
yeah,
the plugs won't pop out.
Yes, I'll leave. It's good points, Rennick. I'll leave about 1/2 mil. I think it won't shrink any more than that. The wood I'm using in the middle of the plane, which is where it would shrink, well, all of it actually, has been in the workshop for probably as much as 2 years. So I'm not expecting too much difference. So if I leave about 1/2 mil to 1 mil, I think that should be adequate. But yeah, good point. So yes, the next thing I want to do, this plane looks a little bit different from any other wooden plane you'll see being used because it's got lots of sharp edges everywhere. That's how most planes start out, and they obviously get eased so that they're more comfortable to use. I've got problems with my hands, so I want to make this so it fits really comfortable and doesn't touch in the parts where my hands hurt a lot, which is the thumbs and the big thumb pad, whatever that's called down there. So I want it to seat right in the middle of my palm, but nice and comfortably, spreading the pressure around. And at the front, I'm considering putting a horn on there, just for a little bit more hold, I suppose, a little bit more to ease the steering of it. Not that that's particularly necessary with a scrub. Then all these other arises need to be chamfered or rounded over. And at the front, I'm going to put a little leading curve on it, so we don't have a sharp edge to start. Same at the back. And obviously on here as well to fit into the palm. So a lot of shaping to do. I'm going to start that now. I've got myself a couple of rasps, got myself a saw rasp, which I've only used about once before, I think.
The Shinto rasp.
It is by Shinto, yeah. And yeah, it's very good, but I forget I've got it in the drawer, and it rarely comes out. Let's get back to another better view. So this is all going to be by feel and by eye, and it'll probably only be comfortable in my hand, nobody else's. Let's see if we can get the wedge out. Oh gosh, that is in tight. I'm going to need a bit more. I think I've got to put a strike button on it as well, because I'm going to be hitting it, I think, if it's fitting that tightly.
This is exactly what I was talking about, the wedge angle.
You think it should be less than, what did I say it was, 7.2? 7 point something?
Yeah, so 8 degrees is the optimum.
So I'll probably cut another one at 8 and see how that works.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That you could try it with just another block of wood and see how that goes.
I think I will do a few little guidelines on here so I don't get too carried away. And I want the sole to look quite nice as well. And if you remember, the sole is different on one side to the other, the way the dovetails come through. So there's 3 full ones on this side and about 1/4, and on this side there's 3 3/4. So we'll try and make it so it looks nice.
So for the pin for the bridge, Lego Man's suggested that you could use brass washers and then pin over the end of the rod onto those washers.
Right. With what intent is that?
Instead of using the plugs.
Oh, okay.
And then Scott's asking if the horn on the front's going to be a stubby horn.
Yeah, it's going to be within the, well, the intention is to be within the wood that's there rather than build it up at all.
And then Ben's asking, what's the sole made of? Is it boxwood?
This sole is beech. I didn't have any box that's that long. I don't think it's going to be a problem because I've made it so I can heat it up, slide it off and put another one on when it wears out. I've also put some wear into the mouth, but to be honest with you, the mouth is probably as closed as it wants to be, so as the sole goes up, I may even be opening the mouth up a bit more.
You know, I've always been curious. What about the skewed scrub plane? How much benefit could that have?
I'm not sure whether that would make much of a difference, because you kind of, if you need the skew, you just hold it differently to skew it. I think the idea with say a mitre plane is if you're shooting with it, it's going to be going always in the same direction. So if you want it to be skewed in the cut, then you've got to either adjust the shooting board so the plane goes up a ramp or down a ramp, or you've got to have a skewed blade in it.
Yeah, no, it was just a thought because I've never seen a skewed scrub plane before.
No, I think that's probably the reason is it's so easy just to adjust in the hand to a skewed position.
Agreed. But I'm very tempted to make one, just for the sake of it. I might do it.
Yeah, do
I
it.
think a scrub plane's a great first plane to make because you don't have to be so accurate with it.
Absolutely. Now, probably leaving too much material here around the horn, so I'll start there and I can always reduce it. But that's a good start. Now I'll go in the wrong direction for me, but it'd be easier for you to see if I'm working towards you. Seems terrible to be doing this. is a little bit coarse on what is a hard bit of wood. Is where it would have been nice to have said I'll do it plugged in instead. I'll just take it to the bandsaw.
This rasp is very interesting. It's very different to the one I normally see.
This Shinto.
Is this one easier to hold? So yeah, I've normally seen the straight Shinto rasp without
this front handle.
Yeah, without the front handle. How does this sort of compare in your hands for yourself? Because obviously the other one's more like a normal rasp. Is this one easier to hold for you?
I haven't tried the other type of Shinto, but compared to a normal rasp, it's perhaps slightly different because you're higher up, slightly higher from the surface that you're using. It's nice to have the handle on the front.
I'm not so sure. I don't want to try one. Did you draw up the plane beforehand, or did you have an image in your head?
I did have an image. I actually did a CAD drawing of what I was going to do, and then I completely went wrong with getting the length of my material. So what was going to have a Roman handle on the front, it wasn't long enough to do that, so I've completely done it differently. The shape I've just... Yeah?
Lego Man says he's making a scrub plate soon as well, but a more traditional one based off an 1840 plane.
Oh.
The Shinto rasp without the handle.
I've got it on a very coarse side, so I'm probably regretting that. I'll swap it in a minute.
Is that a metalworking file that you're using there?
No, that's a rasp.
Rasp.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was hard to see when it was moving so fast.
It's,
You'll finish with a file before you sand?
that's a velour bay one. Yeah, probably will finish with a file, a second cut mill file. It's very hard, this beach. As is the marble wood, or whatever it actually is. And the what supposedly is marble wood really does smell when you cut it. Really quite unpleasant.
Better or worse than Purple Heart does?
Oh no, it's been a long time since I've used any of that. Ooh,
Purple Heart does not smell nice.
this is pretty awful. This is worse than the farmyard. I feel I ought to have some sort of breathing protection on actually. Well, if I'm honest, probably the worst reaction I get is from pine. Ah.
Who suggested it initially, if I'm not wrong. But pitch pine just smells beautiful.
I can't remember which of the African hardwoods it was I was trying was just very chocolatey, and that was lovely. That's definitely getting somewhere. It's given me ideas for the number 3 as well. I've been thinking that I might replace the handles on there with some infill, and maybe even replace the frog. Yeah.
You could do something like that. That would look quite nice.
Well, if I did the rear infill so that it also gave, say, a 55 or 60 degree bed, that would be an interesting swap out that I could use in it. Yeah. I'll probably be going without blade adjustment on that. Although I suppose I could make a Norris style adjuster for it as well, couldn't I? It's a question of how much effort do I want to put into a number 3.
Well, do you want to talk to Jeff about the style adjuster?
Yeah. I quite liked his idea of just keeping one plane purely for that. Right, there's a bit more material coming off this one, so maybe I'll grab a saw. That's my rough Ryobi, if anyone's wondering.
Is that your Ryobi nuts?
It has, it's already got a few missing teeth, so do it for all my rough work. See, I've gravitated towards this raft, so I've just found the right degree of aggression with the tool that works best in this wood. So anyway, that gives you an idea of the sort of thing I'm doing to it. I shan't bore you with doing that for another hour or so. But it's a lot more comfortable now in the back of the hand. And once I get the horn in there, it should that should be nice as well. So I think if I go back to what was my schedule, I've covered everything in the schedule. So if you have any questions, do ask them now. Thank you very much for your help, Shrenik.
No worries.
So I shall now check the chat myself for the next couple of minutes, see if any more questions come up. Ben, the problems with rosewood. Yeah, I haven't done an awful lot with rosewood, but I made a nice writing slope 18 months ago or so. And yes, I did find it quite an irritant, the rosewood dust. I can't remember the smell of pitch pine. It's been a long time since I've ever seen any of that. Yeah, Douglas fir smells nice. Elm, I've worked with elm plenty of times, like that. So that looks like we've pretty much exhausted any questions. Thanks for tuning in. The next one, as I say, should be pretty much tying up the finish of the plane. And that may be Wednesday evening, or it might be back to Monday again. So just make sure, if you want to see it, make sure you're subscribed and you've got your notifications all ticked off. And I'll see you then. Cheerio, folks.